to our discussion if we're all not responding to each other, if we're all just making general comments?
Then you add.
Then it's
really
like goes off.
Yes, then it's not really a discussion.
It's an awkward
It goes off and it's awkward.
Makes me think, like, in what situation, like, was the poem kind of written? Because, like, what would have happened for the world to, like, flip and work be more important than family? Because, like, nowadays, for most people, family is one of the most important things. Of course, for some others, not. But then something, maybe the author is, like, something happened and that made him, like, switch around. Nico?
The first half of the stanza, I thought of actually the assemblies and, like, the fixed mindset thing. Because it was talking about how, like, there's no hope, like, money makes me happy, like
he's stating it. It's
yeah,
not
he's
like
stating
money
it.
Could make me happy. It's
He's not like, I'm gonna fix this. He's like, it already happened. Like, there's no way I can change this.
I would like to add something about, like, an example of a lost generation. We were talking about, like, the environmental issues, about, like, people not caring, I remembered that in Angelo's iMovie, he, like, showed photos of him, like, down at, like, a stream that had garbage all over it, and there were, like, recycle bins and garbage bins, like, right next to it, but people still threw it into, like, the stream or, like, onto the side, meaning that they don't care.
I saw a lot of good word choice, and one thing that caught my eye was quick fix society. And I mean, society's not part of it, but I looked up quick fix on dictionary, the app, and it says an expedient temporary solution, especially one that merely postpones having to cope with an overall problem. So I think what he means by this is, like,
temporarily.
Like, this isn't gonna work forever. It's working for now, but things need to change or else.
I think what I interpret this poem as the main idea, it's shown I think that it's shown in the last lines of stanza 3. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The author shows that, like, there is where he shows that people, colored or white, are the same, and that como he can think just like a white person, he can do the same things as a white person, and
he should be able.
He's discriminated in a very unfair way because he is capable of doing everything that he could.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I like your idea about the border, but I see it more as a door, where you can be on either side, or you can keep the door open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
According to what Jack said about, like, the first stanza and the fifth stanza, I think that's, like, it kind of makes a connection towards the poem explaining my depression to my mother, because it's like it's trying to explain the point, and I really think that, for example, for the first time I read this poem, I didn't quite understand it, and when we started to read it again and again and again, I started to think, like, it's actually, like, the tone is really direct.
But it will be a part of you, and this is where, like, he's talking about his poem. And I think it could mean accepting different races in a way, because I don't know if this makes sense, but, like, maybe white, like, the white paper could represent being white, while having, like, the writing could mean black, so adding together.
Actually, if you read the poem, it has a lot of also scared, sarcastic tone, because this poem is basically the opposite of how we believe we should act, because it says, happiness comes from within, which is a common quote that we hear everywhere, and they say it's a lie, and money will make me happy, which is people think that, like, everybody disagrees with.
In stanza 1, verse 12, if I count it, it says, I tell you this. And I believe that he's like mad, kind of, like, his tone. He's, like, trying to give a voice and send something out. Like,
yeah, I agree with you, because while we were reading this poem together yesterday, line by line, we were talking about, me and Ali were talking about how at first we thought it was, like, sarcastic, but then I feel like he's kind of, like, angry, but at the same time scared that this will happen to him or that it's already happening in our world.
Yeah, I also agree with you, Nelia, because in stanza 2, I think it can also relate to social connections because there are long sentences which might symbolize his long journey of problems and colleges.
I would like to make a statement against the supposition that the speaker is a female.
Yeah, I imagine it as a male.
Yeah. First of all, because the author, Mr. Langston Hughes, has admitted that he wrote the poem as himself.
Add to what Jack said, he brought up the first stanza and it says, and then it will be true, and then later in the poem he says, it's not easy to know what's true for you or me at 22, my age. So he's talking about how like different things are true for different people, but this is my truth. And like it might not be, you might not agree with this, this might not seem right to you, but this is my truth, this is what I believe, and that's...
I sort of disagree because it doesn't really say he's bullied. It says that he's the only black kid in his class.
He feels different.
Yeah, he feels different, but
No, but he feels the same. He knows that he looks different, but he feels the same.
But everybody treats him different.
But it doesn't really say that he's bullied.
It's more of a common problem around the world.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he doesn't really know who he really is because he's talking about like feeling and seeing Harlem and saying me who. I think like since he lives in Harlem and New York, he feels like that helps define who he is, but he's not sure if there's anything else that really.
I'd like to say that we have about 4 minutes left. If you have not had a chance to speak, there are 4 minutes left.
I have a question to bring up. Do you think it's a guy or a man or a woman speaking in the poem?
It could be both,
I mean, it's the author is a man.
But I feel like it doesn't necessarily. The author is not necessarily the person that is expressing all the feelings. It could be a woman who's expressing
Actually,
the
in the
feelings.
beginning of the poem, I would like to point out that he says, "And let that page come out of you." So this is his own experience, and it's talking about him. So I don't think that even though this might be directed to both men and women to read and understand, but it's not from the point of view of the woman.
It'd be kind of normal to have someone in a crowded city, a house that's far away from another place, but from his college. But I feel the sense that he says, then I crossed St. Nicholas, 8th Avenue, 7th, and he's saying all these places that he has to cross in order to get his house. That he's not being like, that he's not getting, he needs to live in a place that's farther away because he can't afford, or he's being discriminated against because all the white people are getting a house.
I actually have a question for you guys that I think would actually be really good. If stanza 2 wasn't there, or lines or specific lines or anything, do you have what do you think that changed the poem in any way?
I think if stanza 2 was not in the poem, we would not get the author's message that there is still hope and that we can change the world. We also would think that this is a negative poem because, of course, it has that negative tone to it and kind of sarcastic tone as well. And we wouldn't get, it would seem that it would just be pointing out what's wrong with society. But because it leaves you, because of the second stanza, it leaves you kind of happy once you realize that it is supposed to be a verse, because he purposely, made it, how do you say, italics? Italicized, so that you could read it backwards. So I think it will, if you remove this, it would just be a sad poem with no, real point, and it wouldn't have been that page.
Do we know? Yes, the author is a man, but why are we just considering the person who's talking in the poem, the person who's delivering the emotion and everything? Why are we just considering it a man and not woman?
I decided to do some research because I wanted to know what Harlem is like today. And today it's known as a Hispanic kind of neighborhood. and you may think, oh, our society has advanced. It's not. Now it's not about African and white people, but the pattern is repeating again because now it's about Latin people and like gringos. Like again, it's separating two things.
Yeah, I agree with Caroline and you because I think overall the theme might be that the author is the teacher and the teacher in the poem is the student. And so I think what he's trying to say is how he's trying to teach to the teacher in the poem, like as if the teacher in the poem is the student.
Yeah, because it says like, as I learn from you, I guess you learn from me. It's like,
Yeah,
it's suggesting that too.
I would like to help you out there, and I think that maybe he's not only talking to the instructor, but also to his people, like people from his community, people who also feel like that, and say like, hear me out, like, or also like white people or other types of colored people, like, hear me out. This is how I feel, and maybe you feel the same way. You're not alone in this.
All these mistakes with our society, we're putting work first, we're cutting down all the trees, we're polluting, we're messing up our world. And he's saying that I believe that he's saying is that I'm ready to put these things behind me and start fresh and make our world.
The line "That's American" that Connor mentioned is extremely short. So it's just 2 words, so maybe that's a representation of how even though he is a different color than other Americans might be, it still shows that he knows what being American is, and that is a part of him, and therefore he is American.
And then he moves to New York City, which is full of a lot of immigrants, and it has many different races, as we talked about before. So it's kind of like the two ends of the spectrum, one of the most racist states, and one of the most free understanding, because they have so many people who have different backgrounds.
Durham and Winston-Salem is in North Carolina, and according to a site, it's one of the most racist states in the U.S. right now. And I think this would affect the poem if the author didn't write it and would put a non-so-racist state, because the poem wouldn't have as much meaning.
That he like separates black and white, and he's not like a white person. I respectfully disagree with you, because actually when the poem is finishing, he says, being me, it will not be white, but it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white, yet as a part of me. Is he still like white?
Article on a website called poets.org, and it's an organization, a website with many articles about different poets. And it says that, this is directly quoting, Hughes refused to differentiate between his personal experience and the common experience of Black America, including both their suffering and their love of music, laughter, and language in itself. So I think that this means that he wanted to show people that even if, like Vicky said, he was a part black and some part white, that he still lived the life of a black person.
So back to what he was saying about Bessie, Bob, and
Bach?
Yeah. So, Bop is a blues music. It's not a music, it's a style to dance solo. And Bessie was a singer of blues, which back in those days was a lot lot known for blacks. They would
Stereotypically.
stereotypically known for that. So maybe that has to do a little with.
Bach was also a classical German musician.
Yeah, so that he likes many styles, which means everyone likes many styles.
Exactly, he's saying that I like things like getting, what was it, a pipe for a Christmas present. And he's saying that he also likes these types of music, that I like the stereotypical black music, but I also like the stereotypical white music.